Hey, yo, friends and neighbors, what is going on? Happy to have you here as always. If you are new to the channel, you know I bid you welcome. If you are a returning viewer, of course, welcome back. Alright. Got another reaction for you. This one is from The Critical Drinker, which is a channel that's been around for several years now. I've only recently discovered him a few months ago. But he's got some good stuff, I think, some stuff that I've enjoyed. But his thing is he is a writer, like an author, with some published work, who offers up his critiques of various things about the entertainment industry, where it's been, where it's going, where it's at today, that kind of thing. But he does it under the guise of a functionally inebriated Scotsman. He is Scottish. Pardon my bad attempt at an accent. I won't do that again, don't worry. But, yeah. So, a functional drinker, you could say. But, he's got this video about this a few years old. I just found it, and I thought it'd be good to react to. Top 5 Star Wars fights. I don't know if he means lightsaber battles, or just battles in general. But, one thing about this video, though, the drinkers thing is, I wouldn't describe him as caustic. His sense of humor is bawdy, salty, particularly with some of his language. And a lot of his stuff, he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy, well, he does strike me as the kind of guy who doesn't set out purposely to offend anybody, but he doesn't care if you're offended either. Kind of a no-filter individual, if you understand what I'm getting at. Me, being Generation X, raised on a steady diet of George Carlin, Eddie Murphy, and Monty Python, I'm not offended. But for you, the viewer, I am not going to censor this video that I'm reacting to. I am not going to edit the video I'm reacting to. So just be advised. Alright? The other thing I will do is I'm probably going to be pausing this video at certain points to give my feedback on his entries. So if you want to watch the original video uncut, uninterrupted, I will leave a link for it in the description of this video. Alright? So if you want to watch that first, and then come back and get my reaction, that's entirely up to you. Tell him I sent you. But, yeah. Alright, let's get to this. Alright.
So those of you familiar with my channel would be forgiven for thinking that I'm a bitter, cynical drunkard living a bleak existence of booze and unfettered rage at the world. And while...
See what I mean? It's starting already.
Well, that's almost certainly true. There's definitely more to me than sarcastic, alcohol-fueled YouTube rants. There's, a lot more. There are things in this world that I enjoy and appreciate. One of them is Star Wars, and because I'm Scottish, another one is fighting. So it seems only logical to combine those two things and produce a countdown of my favourite movie fight scenes, so here we are.
Okay.
Welcome to the Critical Drinker's Top 5 Star Wars fight scenes. Pour yourself a couple of shots and let's get into this. Number 5, Finn vs. Kylo Ren.
Really?
I know, right? I was as surprised as you to be including The Force Awakens in this list, but what can I say?
No kidding.
This is a fight scene I really enjoyed. It's easy to rubbish this movie as a lame, unimaginative J.J. Abrams reboot of A New Hope, and while that's true, it does contain moments that really stuck with me, and one of them is the lightsaber duel between Finn and Kylo Ren. When you break down this scene and look at how it's actually constructed, you'll find it's a solid, well-choreographed fight, shot in an unusual environment between two very unevenly matched enemies. And
True.
it works. The peaceful woodland setting, the snowy backdrop, the low light conditions, and the fiery glow of the lightsabers all combine together to deliver a surprisingly visceral and compelling fight. This is a scene where people can and will get hurt, and it keeps you on edge because you don't really know what's going to happen. I
Hmm.
really love scenes like this when a reluctant character takes up arms and makes a stand against a far stronger opponent, knowing they're probably going to lose but doing it anyway because they believe in their cause. How well they actually do in the fight is less important than the fact they chose to do it in the first place. Finn's a character that spent most of the movie trying to run away and escape from trouble. He's not a
True.
hero, and generally he just wants to avoid conflict altogether, but this is the moment when he finally decides to stand and fight, and he does it to protect a girl he barely knows. It's a nice character moment for Finn, and it made me root for him. It marks the conclusion of his journey from frightened coward to reluctant ally, and finally to a brave and determined hero willing to lay down his life for what's right. Well, I really hope the next movie doesn't totally undo this kind of important character development. This scene also
Too late. No, let it go. I'll.
does a great job of depicting lightsabers as genuinely frightening and powerful weapons that most characters struggle to even hold,
Okay.
never mind actually take into combat. Finn's not fighting with any kind of technique or skill here, he's just swinging wildly at anything he can, desperately trying to block Kylo's attacks and hoping to score a lucky hit. Every blow seems significant, and even Kylo's crossguard lightsaber actually serves a useful purpose when he uses it to climb
True.
through Finn's shoulder. It looks and sounds agonizingly painful, and it makes you feel for him even more knowing he's taken a beating. Ultimately, Kylo Ren gets the better of Finn and seriously injures him, but the distraction buys time for Rey to recover and take up the fight herself. It proves the point that even though he's untrained and unprepared for a confrontation like this, and he didn't have what it took to win, Finn's sacrifice ultimately saved the day anyway. Nice one, mate. Number 4.
Um. Interesting take on it. That slice up the back. That's painful to watch. Um. One thing I can't really argue against that. I do like how with Finn not being a force user, he doesn't have like the flashing moves. He's better with a gun, being a former stormtrooper. He's better with a firearm than a melee weapon, and that scene proves it. But yeah, it shows his determination, his grit. Um, if he had been busting out, like Errol Flynn or Qui-Gon Jinn moves or whatever, then I would have been crying foul. But because it shows how unskilled he is next to Kylo, uh, a little bit of realism there, but you don't just become an expert with a weapon just by picking it up. And yeah, the whole thing about the environment, the dark forest, all the terrain, the obstacles, the trees, the lightsaber blades stand out. Um, I never would have thought that the Drinker would have gone for um, a sequel fight, but for me, it also reminds us of how much they wasted with Finn, the potential. You know, what could have been. All right, number 4, Obi-Wan. Okay, I'll do my thoughts on that.
4. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn versus Darth Maul. There aren't many people that hold the prequel trilogy in high regard, least of all me, but I do at least recognize some of the things they did well.
Well, these
And one
days
of
it's
those things is the
taken
lightsaber
better.
battle at the end of The Phantom Menace. Why, you might ask? Well, because it's a technical
That's why.
masterclass in fight choreography between three very competent fighters that's also expertly paced, perfectly scored, and features some genuinely good character moments.
Yep, the
Let me
music.
explain. The fight starts off as a 2-on-1 battle between Darth Maul and the two Jedi. All three of them are good fighters, but Maul's able to hold his own against them despite their advantage in numbers, proving what a powerful and dangerous enemy he really is.
True.
The choreography is perfectly done here. It's fast and elegant with no awkward breaks in the action when someone misses their cue. Unlike other
I was going to
movies I
say
could
yes. Yep.
mention,
Yep.
Maul quickly
I was wondering if he was going to bring up Last Jedi as far as people missing the cues, because I've seen a different channel talking about stuntmen and fights and all that, and there's a lot of missed cues in that Last Jedi fight. But yeah, choreography wise, the Maul, uh, call it the Duel of the Fates, is flawless choreography
realizes
wise.
that the only way to win is to divide and conquer, so he manages to separate them between a force field, which results in a short break in the action. The movie's smart enough to recognise that one long continuous fight would quickly become boring, so you need to break it up into smaller chunks, give the audience time to absorb it all. And it's here that
True.
the character moment kicks in. The upshot is that we're all trapped in a big laser corridor that won't unlock for a few seconds. Obi-Wan's too far away to help, so Qui-Gon knows he's going to have to face Darth Maul alone. And it's interesting to watch their actions
Maul
during this
pacing
little
back and
break.
forth.
Maul's pacing back and forth,
Yep.
filled with anger and eager to resume
I promise I have not watched this video before this reaction, so that's a coincidence.
the fight. Obi-Wan's trapped and impotent, desperate to help his master but unable to do anything except
The Apprentice.
watch. And Qui-Gon sits down to meditate, rest his body and focus his mind,
Yep.
calmly preparing
Yep.
himself for what's coming. This scene perfectly sums up the characters of these three men. The wise and competent mentor, focused but aging. The eager and idealistic student, young but inexperienced.
Yeah.
The vengeful and aggressive Sith Lord, ruthless but overconfident. The only downside to this fight is the climax and the inevitable defeat of Maul, which felt kinda cheap and contrived compared to everything that had built up to it. I'd rather have seen Obi-Wan lose his temper and deliver a more brutal, less technical beatdown. It might have been nice to play with the idea that he was tempted by the dark side because he was still young and emotional, and that's one of the reasons he proved to be a poor mentor to Anakin.
That's an interesting take. Yeah. I think I had read somewhere, maybe it was Dave Filoni, or somebody speculated that the reason Obi-Wan was able to do that flip was because of his anger at Qui-Gon getting struck down, that unknowingly or unknowingly, he tapped into the dark side a little bit to give him that little oomph to take out Maul. And Draeger might be onto something with that one. He's speculating a little further on it. I like that.
But otherwise, I still hold this fight up as a solid, well-executed, and surprisingly intelligent lightsaber duel in an otherwise disappointing turd of a movie, and it earns a well-deserved fourth place on this list.
Number 3. So the thing with the Duel of the Fates, he mentioned about how it was perfectly scored. For me, I love how at the beginning of the fight, John Williams just goes crazy with the orchestra. But the part where Maul and Obi-Wan start going at it, there's no music. It's just the sounds of the lightsabers providing the atmosphere. And I can hear it in my head. It's ingrained in my memory, the sound of every swing and every strike. It's fantastic. I love how, say what you will about Lucas as dialogue writer or whatever. He had the right idea. I don't know if it was his idea or Williams himself, but to have that part of the duel have no music to it, to let the sound effects do the work, was a very nice move, I think, because three things in Star Wars for me are ASMR. You got Vader's breathing, the Millennium Falcon's engines, and a lightsaber. Number 3, Luke versus Vader.
Number 3, Luke versus Darth Vader from The Empire Strikes Back. Let's be honest with each other here. There's no way I could do a countdown like this without mentioning the lightsaber battle in Empire.
Yep.
It's the first time Luke and Vader go head-to-head in a lightsaber battle, and it ends with a pretty memorable exchange between the two men.
No. I am your father.
No! My father likes son, right?
Itself is what I want to focus on here. Luke comes into it filled with youthful passion, determination to rescue his friends, and maybe a bit of overconfidence in himself.
Yep.
He's been training hard with Yoda, he's growing stronger with the Force, and he thinks he's ready to take on an opponent like Vader. But he quickly learns how wrong he was, and so do we. Vader really puts him through the mill in this fight, easily dominating the encounter right from the start. He's not out to kill Luke, he's out to capture and recruit him. He's basically toying with him, shrugging off Luke's increasingly desperate attacks and dealing out punishing damage when Luke tries to resist. He's just this relentless, unstoppable force that keeps coming no matter what you do. It's an uncomfortable scene to watch. You're expecting Luke to score a hard...
He hasn't shown it, but the holy crap moment for me in the freezing chamber part of the fight is when Luke gets knocked down the stairs and Vader just doesn't even bother with the stairs. He just jumps, launches himself, you know, and Luke is like, oh crap, out of the way, you know. It's, that's an iconic moment for me in the fight.
Fought but triumphant victory like he did in A New Hope, but instead you find out he's totally out of his depth and so he's in real trouble. This is how a movie can cleverly subvert our expectations while staying consistent to the characters and the world they exist in. It's a shame a certain round-headed filmmaker didn't take more notice of this. Anyway, Vader keeps pushing him back, literally driving him into a corner as the fight nears its climax.
Yep.
And then this happens. That's what I call a bad day out. And just when you think it can't get any worse for Luke, Vader hits him with one of the most iconic lines in all of film history.
No. I am your father.
I've seen channels that do reaction compilations of this particular fight. Everybody knows, you know, I am your father. If they don't, they're faking it. But the one bit that I think seems to genuinely surprise people is when Luke gets his hand cut off. You know, it's like younger viewers who watch this and they react to it. They know Vader is Luke's father, or they at least know the line, if not the context of the scene. But when Luke gets his hand cut off, all these reactors are like, oh my god, he just got, you know. It's good stuff.
By the time it's all over, you're left feeling emotionally drained. It's almost hard to take it all in. It's a brilliant example of how adversity is part of growth, and how a crushing defeat can actually make a character stronger and wiser in the long run. I'm just...
What I was going to say was, I forget, I was so young when the first time I saw Empire Strikes Back. I really don't remember what my reaction was at that part. You know, nowadays I take it for granted. I don't remember what my reaction was. He hates Mary Sue's.
Saying is all. Number 2, Vader versus the Rebel Troopers in Rogue One.
Okay.
Now, despite my general dislike of the Disney Star Wars movies, I actually thought Rogue One was a pretty decent film, all things considered.
Yes.
It fit into the wider Star Wars canon without screwing things up too badly. And
Rogue One is not a spin-off. Rogue One is, depending on your point of view, either episode 3.5 or episode 3.9, because of the way it connects the prequel era and the original trilogy era. At least to me.
Even though the main character was as dull as a rainy Scottish morning in December,
it
featured some pretty exciting moments, and we were all pleased when the rebels escaped with the Death Star plans at the end. Then this happened.
Yeah.
This one scene demonstrates exactly how you treat an OT character with the respect and reverence they're due. And what better character is there than Darth Vader? Everyone knows what's about to play out, but the manner in which it happens took us all by surprise.
Darth
The Rebel
Voorhees.
troopers unleash everything they have, opening fire with a hail of blaster fire. But Vader just wades right through it, deflecting blaster bolts with his lightsaber, tearing weapons right out of their grip, picking up enemies, force-choking them and tossing them around like rag dolls. He's an absolute
As God is my witness, he is broken in half.
Monster in this scene, utterly unstoppable and terrifying. You can almost feel the fear and panic growing in the Rebel troopers as they desperately try to escape.
I'm telling you.
And Vader closes in, hacking down and murdering absolutely everything in his path. It's a brilliant, epic fight scene that proves to me there are at least some people at Lucasfilm that still get it, and who still have some respect for the original trilogy.
Yeah.
You might say this scene gave me a new hope.
That's another brilliant part of Rogue One at the end. It canon wells. It goes right from. I just love the way it segues directly into the beginning of the original. You know, like it hits you. That's the blockade runner from the first movie. You know, there's also a theory that I've heard. Is it theory or confirmed by the filmmakers? I don't know, but it's the reason the door jams before Vader shows up is that Vader's holding it shut with the Force, and it's only after the guard, you know, the officer, gets the plans through to the, you know, like like passing the baton in a relay. That's when Vader lets the door open up so that he can keep going through. But yeah, my kids and I would call that the Darth Voorhees scene.
And number one,
yes,
Luke versus Vader from Return of the Jedi.
This would have been my number one, and I will give my reasons why. I want to hear what he has to say.
As much as some people like to dump on Return of the Jedi, for obvious reasons, it's a movie that contains some of the most powerful moments in the entire saga, and the top of that list for me is the final battle between Luke and Darth Vader. The fight really comes in two stages. The first stage when Vader's trying to provoke Luke into giving in to his anger, and he keeps resisting. He's dueling Vader with skill and determination, but it's clear that neither man wants to beat the other.
Yep.
It's a power play. Vader's trying to tempt Luke to the dark side by taunting and threatening him, and Luke's trying to persuade Vader to come back to the light. It's a battle of words and ideas as much as lightsabers, and neither man can gain the upper hand. It's only when Luke goes into hiding and Vader starts hunting for him that the fight finally comes to its climax. When Vader taunts him about his failures, you can see Luke struggling to hold it together, and we know what's coming. And the threat that Leia might turn to the dark side is what finally breaks him. This isn't some carefully choreographed dance or a CGI extravaganza. This is a primal explosion of absolute rage and fury.
Yeah, true.
It's two guys who've been on a collision course for 3 epic movies, finally going at it with everything they have. Luke isn't thinking about strategy or technique anymore. He's just swinging wildly at his enemy, missing and hitting walls and pillars, laying into him with blow after blow, driving him backwards with every step.
Zero F's given.
Huge, unstoppable, dominant monster who toyed with Luke and defeated him so easily in Empire is now being driven back in the face of his overwhelming anger. And when Vader finally starts to buckle, Luke doesn't stop. He's just hammering him into the ground, not even thinking about what he's doing anymore. Only when he severs Vader's hand and he disarms him does he finally stop, seeing the man's robotic arm and recognizing the same injury Vader inflicted on him. The music, the performance from Hamill, the cinematography, the dramatic impact of this scene, it's all played to absolute perfection. A son pitted against his own father, finally defeating him only to realize he's now about to become him. And in the end, throwing aside his weapon in defiance of the Emperor, accepting his own death rather than turning to the dark side. It's the culmination of everything Luke has learned over the past 3 movies and the perfect resolution of his character arc. Rarely have I seen a character's development come down to a moment that plays out as well as this one.
Yeah.
For all these reasons, I genuinely hold this up as one of the greatest ever fight scenes, not just in Star Wars, but in all of cinematic history.
Okay, yep.
Not for its style or its pace or its
No
complexity,
argument.
but for the sheer raw emotional impact
Yes.
it delivers.
Yep.
It's a scene
Yep.
that gives me chills every time I see it. A scene that epitomizes everything classic Star Wars represents, not to mention everything the sequel trilogy seems to have forgotten. And for that, I consider this my #1 Star Wars fight scene. And that's all I have for today. Go away now.
That's how he ends every video. So for me, everything he said about the Luke Vader fight in Return of the Jedi, I agree with. And there's another reason why I think it is that damn good. As far as what I feel are the best fights, there's two ways you can look at it. There's on a technical, choreographed level, and then storytelling, emotion, whatever. If you're going to look at the choreography, you could go either way between Anakin versus Obi-Wan or Duel of the Fates from Phantom Menace. And I think maybe I would lean more toward the Duel of the Fates as the best as far as technical, choreography. Not saying that Anakin and Obi-Wan wasn't good or wasn't amazing. The fact that Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor did that with no double, or no fighting double, I should say, is extraordinary. That they practiced that long and they were actually moving that fast. But we had already seen 3 movies worth of that kind of style. Duel of the Fates, Darth Maul versus Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, that was lightsaber combat that we had not seen up until that point. Showing off, Ray Park's skill. The choreography is just about flawless. So for me, that one takes the edge over Anakin versus Obi-Wan as far as the choreography and the technical aspects of it. For the storytelling, for the emotion, again, Anakin versus Obi-Wan, you've got 2 brothers in arms going at it, but we know it's coming. The Revenge of the Sith is a complete build-up to that scene, and we know how it ends. Obi-Wan, we know the broad strokes of how it ends, at least. Obi-Wan edges out, beats Anakin. Anakin ends up injured to become Vader. So even if we didn't know the specifics, we knew the broad strokes. The fight in Return of the Jedi between Luke and Vader, the whole original trilogy builds to that fight. Like he said, Luke and Vader on a collision course. And Luke on the precipice of the abyss. You don't know which way he's going to fall. Is he going to remain toward the light, or is he going to fall to the dark side? And the movie teases you. If you remember in Jabba's court, Luke force chokes the Gamorrean guards, the pig guards. That's a Vader move. We don't necessarily know it's a Sith move, but it's definitely Vader. So, you don't know at the time. We didn't know at the time which way Luke was going to go, which way the pendulum was going to swing. So for everything that, the drinker said, including we didn't know what was going to happen, Yeah. As far for the storytelling and the emotion, the Jedi fight takes it for me. Return of the Jedi duel takes it for me. So that's the drinker's thoughts. Those are my thoughts. Post a comment below. Let me know your thought. Go check out the drinker's channel. Tell him I sent you. You know, tell him I reacted to this video. If you're new to my channel, check out some more of my videos, see what I have to offer, and if you're not yet a subscriber, please consider subscribing. I am working on the grind to get myself to 1,000 subs. I really want to hit that milestone. Can't do it without you guys. All right, if you're already a subscriber, thank you very much for that. But that's going to do it for this. Until the next video, as always, please be good, be well, be safe, be happy.